Okay, well, for those of you that are going to tune in, and I know you will because Dave Wallace was in the title of this exchange, there's a reason. There's always a reason why Dave and I find a time to come together, and this was another one. It seems like it was recent when we did again, but since last week's shift watch got my attention with a scientist who had is going through his own human awakening energetic changes and now sees the folly of his ideas and just kind of all that science knows is all that science knows. um, it got Dave's attention when he saw it, and I hoped it would. I want to now draw um, kind of a point back to discussions that Dave has been sharing with us, information he's been leading to us. But when I dissected it, he had asked me yesterday to kind of look at in the past, in the archive of stuff that we've done. At what point did he start to begin to introduce the ideas of time, light, gravity, and sound? Well, I had been triggered by the first time he ever said it to me. So I was eager to dispatch myself in this assignment. And there were three. So aside from whenever this scientist began to have his own little wonderful awakening and started to have his public admission of such, we look back at May of 2023 when Dave began to share with us information he had received about the interactions between the particles of time, light, gravity, and sound. That was the first time that Dave mentioned it. I went on to look into one in June where he elaborated on it a little bit more, but still hadn't really come to the conclusion on what was that, whatever it is, what was that thing that bound them all together, that when we understood what that was, we would be able to impact the outcome. And so it was it October when Dave came on, and at the very end of one of the star chats, he said, I'm finally going to share with you what that was. And here it was. So I share all that in this kind of way, in the way my Capricorn mind processes things is there are things that we receive, there's things that we need to process, and then there's realizations we get in the end. Here is a beautiful example of that whole process taking place. So I share this with you, not that I don't know that you're ready to really understand the concept of consciousness. Many of you will, some of you are just catching on. But here is an example of where Dave received those downloads you keep hearing us talk about. Then there was the process of Dave translating those downloads he got so he could comprehend what it was. And then when he finally got all that into perspective, now he had a framework to actually comprehend what it is that he just now has understanding of. So now that I've kind of set the table, I want Dave to kind of share with us what triggered him. Dave's been the source of this information, and that's why he is the guy you should hear it from, not me repeating it. So you all love to hear from him anyway, and I'm going to shut up for a little bit now.
Awesome. Uh, did you have a clip that you wanted to include of me saying that it was consciousness, or do you want to just take it from here?
Those are already keyed up in Shift Watch this week.
Good.
So
All
this is going
Great.
to lend some credence to this week's episode of that. I lifted
Okay.
all three of those so that they could be played in succession, and then you will get it.
Right. Okay. Terrific. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to some non-somnambulant conversation. We're going to wake you guys up to stuff that you already know. And it's stuff that there's two types of cognition. the one that they talk about in academia and universities, which I do not approve of. Just because I have some pals that are PhDs in different, you know, various space things, doesn't mean I approve of what's going on with the money. Okay. Jim very, very carefully explained to me that I was to build a bridge between mainstream academia and scientists and our star families. So the route in which I take to ameliorate that responsibility is varied. I have to balance out the type of person I'm speaking with, whether they're a hawk or a dove, whether they're a warmongering military type, or whether they're an academic that works for the US government in secret operations with Area 51, which is now Nellis Air Force Base. So there's no surprise there. So I'm very careful about lending too much of my clear thinking to mainstream science, but I'm still getting engagements to go and speak to various people in laboratory settings within the space community. I recently went to a small symposium of about 27 scientists at an undisclosed location and was talking to them right in front of this massive rocket engine, which was pretty cool. I put my hand on it because I knew that it would be in outer space. So I left an impression on the metal casing of this giant blast baffle. Okay, so several weeks ago, Professor Faggin Faggin, the Italian
Faggin.
Faggin, the physicist, has announced that there is no organized way to approach the construction of the universe through mainstream science and Earth terrestrial science, that the universe is consciousness and it exists because of consciousness. Well, as soon as I saw that, and I know that Lowell had put up a brief blip about the guy on Shift Watch because I had sent that to Lowell and he cottoned onto this whole thing right away. There's two ways of looking at this whole thing with Faggin saying the universe is consciousness. Well, of course, and I think that it's not just me telling everybody that that's new. I think that if we go back and read some works of some very important thinkers of the past, there's Lao Tzu, the ancient Buddhist philosopher. He lived 2,000 years ago. There's Alan Watt. Alan Watts talked about the conscience and the consciousness of the universe many times for many years before his transition up into it. We all miss Alan, and I think probably people that we remember too talking about a conscious universe, just like Dorothy Cannon, Doris. I think it was
Dolores.
Doris. Dolores Cannon. That's right.
Yes.
Dolores Cannon. Dolores touched on those things in her own way. So there's many people, but it wasn't validated to me as a human being with the brain I was given before Kim Jim and the Torrens stepped in and realigned my neural net. They very distinctly told me about time like gravity and sound, how one cannot operate without the other, and that if mankind was going to really produce real scientific discovery, they would isolate time and realize that it's a particle, not a wave or a linear set of instructions that starts from an infinite beginning into infinity, which has no end. Okay, so then I had spoken in the past about the shape of time because I'm a math theoretician. I see and objectify very incredible math theorem and equations in physics regarding space and time, regarding rotation, regarding electromagnetism, and I am able to see a higher geometry that exists within the scope of what we now study in astrophysics, physics, Boolean geometry, uh, cartography, and vector thrust, and rotational and angular kinematics, and the four laws of thermodynamics, including the zeroth law. These are all things that science is close to. But when I came forward with the Torin science of time, light, gravity, and sound being the four main components of existence, I then had to prove to everybody that Einstein's theory, and the theory that they created or extrapolated from Einstein's mind, was the grand unified theory, the GUT, and that the grand unified theory was what? Academia will tell you that the grand unified theory is matter, space, energy, and time, or matter, space, mass, and gravity. It's a group of those things, but it's not. The grand unified theory is the result of time, light, gravity, and sound. You can't have matter, energy, and space and mass without time, light, gravity, and sound. And if you take sound away, then time, light, and gravity fall apart. If you take time away, then there's no expression. If you take gravity away, then nothing is held together. They all must work in unison. Gravity is a particle known as a graviton. Photons are particles of light. The supersymmetrical opposite of a photon is a photino. Sound frequencies are what? They're a compression of particles, of vibrations that create a frequency when they're compressed together. And time has to be viewed as a particle in the form of a chronoton. And a chronoton, of course, is taken from the name Kronos, who was one of the father of the gods. He was one of the Titans who was trapped by Zeus and his brother Hades. So chronotons, gravitons, photinos, and photons, and frequency all work together in a mystical union. And I brought up that when we discover the binding energy, the binding particle, the binding glue, not to be confused with a gluon, the binding glue that attracts, encapsulates, and works with and within time, light, gravity, and sound, that holds those four main aspects of this reality in unison and in balance. Sometime after spending some effort at describing time, light, gravity, and sound, how that theorem works and how that is the progenitor of the GUT, because mass and energy cannot exist without time, light, gravity, and sound. So academia and the powers that be spend all their time in universities brainwashing people that they have to look at the scatology of time, light, gravity, and sound. You're looking at the result. You're looking at the poop of the universal soup. The grand unified theory is not the four main aspects of reality. It's time, light, gravity, and sound. These are the four aspects that enable us to even think, and that enable us to enjoy butterflies and to drink water and to swim in the ocean. If it wasn't for these beautiful things and the realization that we're what? We're all made of stardust. We are all part of the great fog of magical particles, and it's held together by consciousness. You see, I tried to come up with the explanation a few months back with Lowell, that if we took away all the atlases in the world, and we took away and took back all the maps, and we took away and took back all the globe that we have in schoolrooms, starting with kindergarten, if we took all that information off the internet, and then we reproduced the maps, the globes, and the information about what countries exist on the planet, but without the continent Africa, then Africa would disappear, because nobody knew it was there and nobody would see it, and therefore it would be gone. Africa exists because we have consciousness of it. We have seen it, we have touched it, we have tasted it, We've been plagued by it, and we support it because of the beautiful tribes and the beautiful diaspora of animal life. If we took it away from our view, if we took it away from our ability to travel there, if we told every person on this planet that Africa was just a big patch of ocean in between the rest of the continents, then Africa would disappear. Everything that we have is bound by consciousness through our purview, the way we see it, touch it, smell it, and identify with it. When we look at the stars and we start theorizing about the shape of nebulas, and we start creating satellite imagery of the Crab Nebula and all these fabulous, the Horsehead Nebula, and the stars that are around Andromeda, and the construction of the universe based on our ability to look back into time through photographing and studying early light forms and early light sources. Academia will tell you now that the Big Bang theory is probably not correct, and there's a lot of academics that are trying to reverse the Big Bang theory and come up with something else, because the Big Bang is analogous of having a shape or a form of the universe. But recently I posted that there's no point in following technology anymore. There's no point, because technology is not doing anything for animal species or clean water or clean energy. It's just a scam run by world governments and world militaries and academia to get you to put in billions and trillions of dollars. Technology is a scam. I don't see how any animal on this planet is benefited because you can go buy a new cell phone. I'm urging everybody I know to not buy a TV, not buy a computer, not buy a cell phone, and to change their life and make their own soap, make their own candles, make their own clothing, build a kiln on a piece of property and make beautiful tiles, and share and trade and sell these things to our fellow humans, because technology has done nothing but create woe. All of those people on this planet that have been duped into thinking that they're an environmental hero for buying an electric vehicle, but none of them see the huge pile of cobalt that little 5-year-old children in the Congo are scraping with their mothers before 6 a.m. when the Chinese guards show up to protect the mound. Nobody wants to talk about that, but we're all special. And I warned everybody on Star Chat that there would be a push by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to build more nuclear power plants. And this is it. The electric car scam is putting more nuclear power plants in small towns, in big cities, and out in forested areas and into deserts. Bill Gates just cut the ribbon for a giant complex that's being built and considered right now in Wyoming. It's for electric cars. All right, so it's all a scam. Technology is a scam. So let's take a deep breath and bring this in. What we need to do is to remember to stay focused on Mother Earth and our patterns of our thoughts in life. Now, Faggin in Italy, who has gone, the universe is consciousness. Well, he's correct, but he's not the one who discovered it. He's not the one that discovered this. There have been many ancient world religions before the time of Atlantis that realized that everything exists because of consciousness. You have a conscious mind which can perceive the environment and the dimensions around you. And as soon as you perceive it, it becomes real. And how long have I been saying thoughts are things? Your thoughts become real. It isn't just a telescope that tells us that nebulas evolve and turn into different planets and to spread out and add to other nebulas that turn into stars and suns. We don't need a telescope to tell us that, because we know just by what? Just by looking at the bright night sky, looking at the stars, viewing the stars, the suns, the planets, and their reflection from light that comes from our star. Our imagination creates the universe. And our imagination is unbound and unlimited unless you allow yourself to get brainwashed by academia. Faggin is no better than anybody else in academia. He just seems like a friendly guy and he's excited about the topic. So I'm not angry. I'm just like, I'm actually pretty glad that someone stepped out of academia to say, the universe is constructed of consciousness. Well, yeah, good for you. Yay. Academics and academia can now consider the metaphysical side of everything that you and I and your family has known all of our friggin' lives. We've all known about the metaphysics and the contact and everything. So this is just another bridge that perhaps is being built. And whether it's the 100th monkey theory and all of us are thinking of it, and then all of a sudden Faggin decides to release this big, huge synopsis, good for him. People that are humble, people that don't have an ego, don't want credit.
Yeah.
When Kim Jim told me, you're going to be an ambassador, but you have to follow our guidelines. I don't want you selling coffee mugs and t-shirts with the wisdom that we're sharing because it's supposed to be free. And I agreed. And he said, okay, it's going to be tough. You're going to lose your wife, your friends, your family, but it'll be worth it in the end. Trust me, because there's perks. And he said it basically like that. And there are. I mean, I've been on spaceships and I have these crazy friends. So let's just look at a moment at what ancient Buddhism teaches us about
Well,
consciousness
before
and the
I just want to
construction.
underscore one thing, and then I want you to continue. It, the significance in my mind of somebody like Faggin stepping up and now saying things that we've realized. Here is that scientist that has finally seen something beyond the rigors of just what he thought he knew from science and didn't stop there. Something got under his skin, just like it got under yours, just like it got under
Oh,
mine, and told me that something else resonates with information I didn't have before. And here's a scientist who finally didn't let that get in the way.
well, and this is kind of what I touched on when I was discussing um, quantum hypertext down at SpaceX, or quantum hypertext down at laboratory with some other folks that are retired from Boeing. Um, they will tolerate uh, me adding in a discussion about life forms and sentient species from other planets. They'll tolerate that because they're so intrigued by quantum hypertext, and they're kind of like yeah, get on with it. But it's almost like they know, and if they're not careful, Big Dave might spend more time talking about it. So they go along with it because they realize in order to access a mathematic program which is going to revolutionize physics, in order to access a math theoretical program that will revolutionize higher geometry, and then finally here's a mathematics program that's being given to them through me that will allow human beings to access regions of their mind that they no longer have to worry about whether they're working or not. You see, it's a rumor that we only use 13 or 14 or 15% of our mind. We use 100% of our brain 100% of the time. Otherwise, that region of your brain that you think is not active wouldn't be there. Those rumors started back in the Edwardian period when they were sticking electrodes on cadavers and the left arm would go up. And then they would say, "Oh, well, this is because this is the only part of the system that's working." So when we look at creating a mathematics program that will add to your human developmental ability, because right now we're living in a world where all of us in science have produced light bulbs, airplanes, trains, automobiles, square boxes to live in, food, everything else. And what we need to do now is go, oh, yeah, we're living a life of luxury within everything that everybody in the science community was able to produce. We haven't created these things, and yet we're the benefactors of all of them. What's worse now is that at technology, you just have to push a button and you get everything from your food being cooked for you to a nuclear bomb being launched. So we've gotten so pacified by what we consider to be brilliant, but it's actually just technology to the detriment of this planet, to the detriment of all the species that are being destroyed in order to access the rare earth minerals that are below the jungles. The
Yeah.
whole thing is a scam. So with math theory and with quantum hypertext, we're able to stretch and bend higher cognitive centers of our mind, where that forces us to evolve cerebrally. If we evolve cerebrally by however or whatever tool that we decide to use, that will benefit your children and your grandchildren. See, the things that we're doing right now as far as meditation and math theory and understanding Faggin's concept that the universe is consciousness, then what we have to do now is look at what we are doing with our personal hobbies and our personal habits to see that we're constantly working on something to improve our mind, to study something that's difficult for us, to create and generate new synapses. Neural science has proven over and over and over again, 1,000 times over, from Johns Hopkins Memorial to USC Medical Center, that every time you study something new or read a new book or talk to a new person who's intrigued you, your brain produces a brand new neural synapses. And as soon as your brain gets in the habit of producing ganglia, then it becomes unrestrained, especially when you spend your time working on something that's extremely difficult for you. Now, when I went to mathematics, not only was it suggested to me by my friends, but they also gave me huge downloads, which enabled me to comprehend higher mathematics. So I was able to skip all the power series and all the junior calculus and the junior trigonometry and the junior geology or geometry in order to put together quantum hypertext and look at mathematics from a higher elevated space, where we know that we have Richard Feynman's Mandelbrot, and the Mandelbrot is a ladder and a tool to find the next highest step or the next equation to a new form of higher mathematics. And quantum hypertext is that very thing, because quantum hypertext then produces other models that look just like a Mandelbrot. So if we look at ancient Buddhism, and if we look at ancient Hinduism, and we look at ancient Taoism, then you'll see that people that lived 5,000 or 10,000 years ago, who meditated and understood that the human mind was the center of their creative genius and the center of their cognitive functions, they meditated for many hundreds of years and thousands of years, and look at the results. The fabulous mandalas they produce, which show both a geometric and yet an esoteric metaphysical structure to the universe. All three of these major world religions, not the Judeo-Christian version of life in a box, but Buddhism, Hinduism, and Taoism. And here, can we expand on this just a little bit? Here, what we have is the human body in meditation, and yet springing from the mind and springing from an arterial system, and the very center, like your fourth chakra, your sixth and your seventh, the crown. Look at the very top of the head there. What we see is we see the universe, and all of these different liturgical characters that are developing around the human form in meditation are all aspects of consciousness. They all have a different name. They all have a different purpose and a function. And every one of those images just around the human body in meditation has a specific mathematic, scientific, or spiritual consciousness to both react to and to feed back to the human in the thought process. So it's thinking, which is the highest aspect of our humanity, and compassion and hope and forgiveness and kindness are all end results of being conscientious. Conscientious is taken from the word consciousness. Let's move over to the next image. And here in Hindu liturgy, you see the Lord Rama floating in a cosmological soup of nebulas, and considering the planet Earth in the palm of his hand, he's a Titan, which is really interesting because it goes back to, Kronos, from which chronoton is taken, and the Greeks who believed in the pantheon of the 12 gods. And here we have a giant super being floating in his own consciousness in the universe. And it's a beautiful colored nebula, colored stars, colored planets. And this is the connection, you see. We are part of the universe is part of us. But if you look at the Judeo-Christian analogy of consciousness, it's always where? It's always on the outside of us. It's never something that we're connected to, for heaven's sakes, because in order to be a superstar at your Judeo-Christian religion, you're asked to what? Pray to God, pray to Jesus, pray to a higher being who will allow you there. Now, this is really fascinating. This has several elements, both the I Ching, the yin and yang, and then again, here's the Taoist liturgy. This is a translation of an ancient 5,000-year-old Chinese text. And what they've done is, when you guys get a chance, you can screenshot that. What they've done is they've put a superposition under each one of these characters. They're not monks, they're not demigods, they are aspects of you. They're aspects of yourself. They are different forms of yourself. You see, sometimes I have a rake in my hand and I'm planting vegetables. Sometimes I'll have a joint in my hand and I'm having a puff. Sometimes I've got dirty dishes in my hand in my kitchen and I'm washing them. These are all different aspects of my consciousness within this reality. So here, rather than running away from myself, rather than running away from the concept of being connected to the great universe, here I have these many aspects, and it's what? Look at that yin and yang symbol, and isn't it interesting how they have an axis point running through it, just like the Earth is tilted on an axis? Now, this is a direct translation from an ancient painting and text, and I just love it because the yin and yang becomes the planet Earth surrounded by our many aspects of our own consciousness. Is there any way you can expand on that a little bit and look at the writing underneath, like the top one at number 12? At the number 12 point, there we go. So spirit, creative yang. To the right is sensation, feeling, and instinct. And then to the left is emotion, desire, and joy. I like intuition, subconscious, and irrational, all there, right? And then below that, wisdom, super conscious, transcendent. And here's one of the lovely aspects that we really are, and there's the great soul. So we all realize we have a soul, and any world religion has taken on to that and said, yep, your soul needs saving. Your soul needs to be the number one focus. But really, you need to look at intellect, your will, your soul, your wisdom, your intuition, your capacity for love, your emotions, your sensations, because our sensations connect us to this 3 dimension. That's why the 3rd dimension is so important. If it wasn't so damn important, we wouldn't have been placed here to experience it and to improve it. This is about improvement of our souls while we improve the life of others around us, to looking to our friends before we consider ourselves. And so, very good for Faggin to say, the universe is consciousness. Academia will only now just promote that because he's an academic with a PhD who's been spending, a huge percentage of his life teaching in university all the various concepts of consciousness being the reality that we live in by the mere process of our thoughts creating this existence. It's really just amazing. It's just amazing.
That's what I think too. Here's a guy who finally, after some trigger out in nature in Lake Tahoe for him too, had him go down another rabbit hole, just like fractals you and I are very familiar with. And somehow this guy concluded that he could not describe consciousness with mathematics. Here's a mathematician, spent all his time trying to come to that conclusion, only to conclude that consciousness is what creates math.
Right. And
it reminded me of a couple years ago when Adam Rickus came across my path. He had been to India to meet with Sam the Illusionist, this kid, the young guy there that was channeling lots of things, and part of them were the Lemurians. And one of the things that Adam wanted to ask the Lemurians, and he asked through Sam, was, can you explain your technology to us? And even the Lemurians back then said, our technology comes from consciousness, period.
Right. That's a very good connection. I think the significance shouldn't be lost, because the significance of matter and consciousness is basically what Faggin is talking about. But you see, in Tibetan Buddhism, the concept of matter and consciousness serves to illustrate a diversity of existence. It emphasizes how these two aspects are perceived as distinct identities, despite their inherent interconnection. And this
Yeah.
contrast is used to challenge the notion of separateness, highlighting
Mhm.
how our understanding of reality can deny the intrinsic unity of all phenomena. You see, this perspective encourages a deeper exploration of the relationship between the material world and our conscious experience.
Yeah, we're in that density. We're we're conditioned to measure things in matter, in physical form. And so here's our best shot at trying to translate it into greater appreciations of information that just resonates with us, that our scientific community had not broached yet, whether they were incapable or unwilling to do it, whatever the reasons. Something tells me that even their mindsets are beginning to break down now, and they're beginning to enjoy a different perspective of things beyond their reason, and something within them too isn't so freaking rigid and says, if I can't prove it, I can't believe it. Fagin clearly has crossed that boundary.
Well, and this is why I brought in the Hindu concept of matter and consciousness. You know, in Hinduism, matter and consciousness emphasizes their inseparable relationship, highlighting how the physical universe, which is matter, and awareness, which is consciousness, coexist and interact. You know, it reflects a holistic understanding of existence. Uh, the Vedanta
Mhm.
refers to a school of orthodox Hindu philosophy, which is called Astika, drawing its subject matter from the Upanishads. There are a number of sub-schools of Vedanta. Uh, Most of them expound on the basic teaching of the ultimate reality, or the Brahman, and liberation, the moksha of the individual soul. So Hinduism has made this distinction where it's connected. And how old is Hinduism? Well, it's at least 10,000 years old, if not older. So all of these mainstream scientists are drawing upon uh, linear ideology, because these ideologies
Mhm.
all existed. And as a mathematician, I see them as linear ideology. People who've been brought up in the aura of Christian and Hebrew aspirations find this very frustrating. And I think it seems to deny any possibility of progress. It's like an ideal which flows from their linear view of time and history. And the whole
Yeah.
enterprise of Western technology is to make a world a better place. But technology isn't doing that at all. It's to have pleasure without pain, wealth without poverty, and health without sickness.
Yeah,
And
that's not this plane. We're
yeah, we've
here
been
on the 3D plane, and it's full of duality.
we've been interfering with a complex system of relationships of the consciousness and the universe, which we don't understand. And the more we study its details of metaphysics, the more it eludes us. It's like I used to say to you guys, is, the tighter you grip something, the easier it slips through your fingers by revealing still more details to study. So as we try and comprehend and control the world, it runs away. It runs
Yeah.
away from us. Instead of, getting angry at the situation, a Taoist would ask what it means. What is
Yeah.
that? What is that which always retreats when pursued? And the answer, of course, is yourself.
Yep. What should I be learning from this?
Idealists, in the
Yes.
moral sense of the word, regard the universe as different and separate from themselves. And that's a system of external objectifying. It's when you objectify something and put it outside of yourself and say, oh, that's a planet and that's a star system, but it's 300 million light years away and we can never reach that. And
Mm.
see, so we look at these things as external objects which need to be changed, controlled, or subjugated. And the reason I brought in Taoism was that they view the universe as the same as or inseparable from themselves. So
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier the monk Lao Tzu. Now Lao Tzu would say, and that's spelled phonetically, it's Lao dash TZU or
Yes.
TZU. He would say, without leaving my house, I know the whole universe, right? And then we access
Mhm.
this through meditation, by being calm, by being at peace with our environment, And Lao Tzu also said, when we are at peace with our environment, the environment is peaceful. You see, and so that's another development of thoughts or things. So you must use your mind to create these energies. You must stop looking at the past and objectifying it. Don't try and control the future. Let go of the pain from the past. Who cares if your grandfather was evil, or if your aunt was a terrible person, or if your dad was, an alcoholic who beat your mother? Those things are gone. So don't
Those
let
have
them.
nothing to do with your
Right,
journey. They
right.
were, little milestones along the way, but that's not your life. So I'd stop focusing on that and wake up to what's going on, because the point at which you get to see things in the next higher realm is here already. And it's a matter
Right.
of
And
getting in touch with
right.
the same vibration. End of
Well,
line.
and it's good luck to Fagin, who needs to describe that life is more like navigation than warfare. And here we have
Yes.
the entire academic world on both sides of the poles of this planet building larger super colliders, building larger weapons. The art of life is more like navigation than warfare, because what's really important is to understand the wind, the tide, the currents, the seasons, and the principles of growth, the principles of loss, and how things break apart and disappear, so that one's actions can use them and not fight against them.
Yeah.
In this sense, the Taoist principle is not opposed to technology per se, but uh, the Chuang-Tzu, which are writings, are full of references to crafts and skills perfected by this very principle of going with the grain. The point
Yeah.
is really that technology is destructive only in the hands of the people who do not realize that they are one and the same process of the universe.
Yeah. Once you surrender to that whole idea of symbiosis with the earth, you just want to be around it all the time, because once you've touched that part, that's all you want to do. It's all you want to be. You don't want to be distracted by any kind of humanness after that. It just opens us up to the things we didn't understand before. And as you pointed out earlier in this, so I kind of underscore, human beings can believe anything, anything, which is why some people are healed by ridiculous means and some people drink all lives and still are healthy. That's not necessarily a model for all of us, because we're all different. All of us are different. And that's the part we need to embrace a little bit more. Man, when this came together, when you crossed my path and these new tribes showed up, my appreciation for people that had different mastery in different areas just grew exponentially. None of us are the same. Have we had extraordinary experiences? Yes. Were they the same? Absolutely not. But that doesn't take anything away from how extraordinary they are, and that we all vibrate from the same level. And that's the common thread. We just bring these new experiences together to share with them, and not to prove anything anymore. Hell, we've done this enough to prove it. And if this wasn't sufficient for you, then I send you light and love. And
Yeah,
I
right.
just
It's like I said the
know
last time.
what I know.
Yeah, that's like the last time I was on. I said, I'm not here to prove anything. I don't give a shit if anybody believes me or not. This is when
Yeah.
somebody is handing you some kind of attempt at helping to bring you peace. My role as an
Mhm.
ambassador is not just to work with government agents and scientists, it's to work with everybody. But I've got to say this again. I'm not a healer. Don't send me an email where you require healing. Send me an email that understands that your consciousness is part of the great collective and you understand that you create the universe by observing it, right?
Yes. Yes.
Technology, academics are trying to tell us that the size and the shape of the universe is important, and they're spending billions of dollars on that. Well, why? What does that
Yeah,
have to do with?
exactly.
What does that have to do with like keeping the water clean? I mean, it just makes me sick. I wish
Yeah.
people would stop going, "Oh, I need a new phone. I need a new outfit. I need a new Audi. I need to do all these things because it makes me me." It's like, God, pull your head out of your ass and get real, people. You know, do with what you've got. Don't go buy a new car. Don't go buy a new computer. Take your computer down to the computer guy and see if he can, update it. Don't buy new technology. It's evil. Don't give them any money. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. And this is why they made a math theoretician out of me, because I don't hurt the universe by thinking about higher geometry. I don't hurt the planet by having ideas about the functions of reality. It just helps me connect more to the universe, and it helps me connect more to my body and the way I feel about life and the way I feel about myself, and how I love you and I love everybody else, and we all must love each other. Otherwise, the universe will not be full of love. Every piece of anger, every piece of pain, every piece of nonsense that used to control us can now be put away forever. And this is the gift
Yeah.
of the past. And we've spoken about the gift of the past, haven't we? That's why it's
Yeah.
the past. That's why time is a gift. Every day is a blessing and a lesson. And embrace
Yes.
those lessons and then let them go. How you choose to feel is what dictates or determines how you're going to be tomorrow. Are you part of the solution of being in a loving universe, or are you just a turkey? If
Yes.
you're a turkey, then log off, because this is all about love, community, and support of one another and the highest ideals of our humanity. Boys and girls, listen, this is about how we love ourselves and loving our neighbors. Be love, be love, be the energy of love, and everything will be good.
Yeah.
Just be, and be here now,
Mhm.
not tomorrow, not yesterday. Don't go pining off to the fourth and fifth dimension. We need you here now, and we need you full of love. And this is our human contract with universal law, right? Because I very much believe that we'll experience this dharma and convert that to karma when we pass on to the next life. And that our karma is then judged by the greater good. And they say, well done. Good job, Lowell. Good job, Dave. Good job, everybody. You did a great job. And bless your little heart. Would you like to stay? Would you like to go back as an angel? Would you like to go back and help some more? Because, gosh, we could sure use some more of this. Right? This is what happens when we're judged. No one's going to sit up there and say you're going to hell for eternity. That's bullshit. Why would they create you in the first place if your soul is that disposable? No, no.
Yeah.
This is about love, and then being forgiven. You know, that's why there's you're your own judge. That's why these people at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and all these people in warfare, they all want to blow up bombs and kill children with bombs. But then they run off to church on Sunday and they ask for forgiveness because the God they designed, he'll give it to them. And it
They're
just
just
justifies.
NPCs
Yeah, it
going
just
through the
justifies what they do the next.
motions.
Yeah,
They just
it
don't
just
know any better.
yeah, just justifies what they do the next Monday. No, they know
Yeah.
better. They know better. That's the only way they can live with themselves and
Well,
put their
yeah.
feet on the coals.
I can't. I don't spend my attention on worrying about who should be held accountable. That's
Oh
no.
no,
Um,
that's the lovely thing, isn't it? It's
but
not
a
our
lot of
job.
people do, Dave, and so I just want to kind of plant a seed that all of these things that are coming to the surface are all fractals of people, me, you, everybody's got their own that need to be healed. This part is where we have to achieve our karmic balance in order to move to the next level, because the next level is at our freaking doorstep, and everything to prepare us for that energetic place is here now once you have an awareness of it. So the warnings that Dave is giving us, if you want to see them that way, are just indicators of how we need to get ourselves situated first. Tend to your own flame and get this alignment right. Feel what's around you, because all of us are sensing some other energetic state that is foreign to us. Even scientists that were locked and loaded in whatever they learned at school and nothing beyond that, well, of course, metaphysically can't be proven. All of that seems to be out the window. It was out the window for me when I finally got to this point and had to surrender to believe in things that were outside of my realm of experience. But holy cow, have they been backfilled since then with people that have had the same things. And then I've had other extraordinary multidimensional things that just kind of cement the last one I had.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed. I mean, I'm going to borrow Ben Davidson's term here. When he's got people that have been watching his astronomical phenomenon, Space Weather News Channel, since 2012. I started in 2013, so I'm what's known as a veteran observer. And he has a lot of veteran observers. They're all smart. Most of them don't leave comments because there's so many people that are coming into his website that are new, that leave comments like, "Oh, thank you, Ben, for everything you do." And he knows, and he knows we're listening. And every once in a while, we'll throw him a bone, and
That's right.
it's, you get you get the first and only thumbs up to the bone you throw him, because he understands what you're saying. And all the new people that come on that want to express love, well, that's very sweet, but they won't give you a thumbs up because they don't understand what you're saying. And it's just it's an ongoing process of knowledge, of getting to know things. I would say without a doubt that your people are veteran observers, and that
Oh, yes.
I don't worry about, I'd say, 85 or 90% of the people in this community. I don't worry about them cleansing their soul and worrying about the past. I only say those things for the 10% that are joining, because
Yes.
I've watched your subscriber base increase over the last couple of years, and it's great. We want to get the word out, but the words love, hope, kindness, and compassion and forgiveness. Anybody that you're listening to on other channels that don't use those phrases are people that are not in that mindset, and that's the
It's just a
mindset of
different
resistance.
vibration. Listen to
Well,
them, listen
I'm
to
not going to
us,
be concerned. I'm not
and
concerned.
decide where your vibration is at the end of it. Did, when you listen to us, did we enlighten you, and do you feel lighter, and did we raise your vibration, or did we deliver some message that dropped your vibration? There's the
Well,
measurement.
I'm looking forward to the day when you put up 20 tiles on Zoom
Yeah.
and we get 20 different members of your veteran observers. Sorry, Ben, I'm going to steal your term. When we get your veteran observers, because what are you? You guys have been part of this community before we ever met you. I mean,
Yes.
I'm not convinced that you saw UFOs because you got on and listened to me. I know all you guys are out there communicating to a higher source, and that just don't objectify the source. Remember that you're part of it, that our friends from other planets, the Lemurians who live under the earth, the Atlantean spirits who are still here trying to guide us as best they can, they're all part of it too. They're part of
Right.
you and you're part of them. So there's really no big urgency for this community of observers to uh, worry. I think everybody here is full of love. Otherwise, they wouldn't be tuning in. It's just that we talk about these things for the 10% that are just joining on. And whether they stay and subscribe or not, well, that's okay, because we're not forcing a dogma on anybody. We're just talking about, oh, gee, this is the last 10 or 15,000 years of human consciousness that we've covered through Buddhism, Hinduism, and Taoism. And that, the the Judeo-Christian box only showed up a couple thousand years ago.
Yeah.
The three wise men. Uh, it's said in the Bible that the star went before them. What does that tell you? It's a star that they followed. It wasn't a star; it was a ship, and it stopped over this little manger in Bethlehem to show Jesus, the child of God, and to support that one soul. Every once in a while, somebody produces someone who's going to save society. And at the time, there was bestiality and cannibalism and all those things, horrible things going on in the evolutionary process of our genome. Thank goodness that he was delivered to save mankind, because there's all sorts of people that have come into our pathway that are just like that. Think of Gandhi, right?
Hmm. Yes.
This wonderful, beautiful soul who
Yes.
only wanted peace, love, and forgiveness and kindness, and lived his life by those very words. And I think that I don't have to be afraid for anybody in this community, because I know they're all people that are filling their lives with peace and kindness. Remember that there's no money that you can throw at something for better help. You can give yourself the gift of love. And as soon as you truly love yourself and believe in yourself, then all of the gifts of love and belief will come to you. Just
Hmm.
like a big basket of gifts, a big cornucopia, your life will be it won't be just a pie slice anymore. You will be surrounded by a loving universe that feeds you love and compassion and hope every day, because that's all you put out. And that's all that's required of us, is to be that divine channel, to be that divine conduit, so that we are grounded in Mother Earth and we hear her and that our mind connects to the stars in the universe. So bully for Faggin. I hope he gets academia on the right path. He's just another ambassador, whether he knows it or not, because this is what the mass landing's all about. He probably saw some lights that flashed at him, but just thought it was a star or a meteorite. And you see, this is how they do it.
Yeah.
They don't need to say, hey, do you want to get us know better? They're just going to flash the right people. And he's a power player. The man is definitely an influencer in academia. So, of course, if I was going to give him a message, I would show up from whatever star system and say, that human there, he's looking at the stars. Let's get him now. Beep, 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 beep. And he got the message. It unfolded. Now he's out there on YouTube land going, the universe is consciousness. Thank goodness.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
You know, I'm glad you pointed that out. And I'm glad to see he's excited. But it was just like we had been told that people were going to cross our paths, unlikely people, that were going to pick up on something. And then they're taking it back to their circle and influencing the people that they already influenced with some new information. And so, it's just remarkable to me that somebody out of academia is picking up influential one and now taking this back. So we'll see what kind of momentum it gets. But holy cow,
that's great.
It's still, when I think of this timeline in which this happened, because the interviews that you shared with me and one I've seen since then were done in the last few months. Now, his experience in Tahoe was in 98. So yes, the guy's had lots of time to see how this settled. And wasn't he a microprocessor inventor or something? That's where I think his claim to fame was. I was looking for a response, but we're getting toward the end of the hour here anyway. So before we conclude, you want to show yourself again and just say goodbye to everybody.
Well, I'm sorry. I had my neighbor had something important to share. Just thanks for tuning in. And I think you guys are amazing. Keep up doing what you're doing. You're holding up your end of the field. That's what's important. Lowell, I'm going to take off, but I'll call you back after I take care of this little thing. And look, it's been an hour. Nice to see everybody. I hope you listen. Right? Take care.
Thanks, brother.
Bye now.